Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Maybe some others drift on in here. I know everybody's got somewhere else to be. So go ahead and get started. And first bill we got on the agenda is House Bill 972, Dave Belton. Or Representative Dave Belton, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you mind, if you let Aubrey come up here and speak with me as well, would that be okay with you, Mr. Chairman? Sure, appreciate the chairman's time and appreciate the committee's near acceptance of getting this done. First thing I want to say is I want to say a real big thank you to Sean Marie Story. She spent a lot of time on this bill. It's a very large, long bill. It's about 60 pages. It's not really a lot. We haven't changed a lot, but we have updated it. It's basically a big cleanup bill from a 1985 law for professional counselors, social workers, marriage and family therapists, basically people who are counselors who have a master's degree instead of a doctorate. So not talking about psychologists and psychiatrists, that kind of thing. We've talked to the psychologists, we've talked to hospitals, we've talked to preachers, we've talked to universities, marriage counselors, social workers, and we believe we've addressed everyone's issues on this very large bill. It's basically a big cleanup bill for the licensed professionals. And the meat of the bill is on page 9, starting lines 215. It says, except as otherwise provided in the article, a person who is not licensed in the article shall not practice professional counseling, social work, or marriage and family therapist unless they're licensed. Page 10, starting about 223, there's a bunch of exceptions. And we've basically taken out a lot of the expired language that was in there and also outdated language that was in there from before. On page 18, lines 431 to 445, we've created the new standard, the new universal standard for associated professional counselors, APCs, and licensed professional counselors, LAPCs. And the only difference between the APC and a LAPC is that the APC has a master's degree and all the quarterly hours they need to become a professional counselor, but the licensed APC also has the 2 years of guidance they have to use under supervision. Page 20 lines. No, I'm sorry. That's never mind. The other big difference, we've taken out a lot of outdated language in some of the areas. In the very, very last page, we have changed the fine from $500 to $1,000 if a person uses false documentation. But we still keep it as a misdemeanor if someone exceeds or breaks the law. And that is the meat of the bill, and I have lots of documentation, and we could talk about this a lot if you have any specific questions about the bill.
I think we're good. I know this bill, the way it started out, we had a bunch of people that was kind of against it, and I know all those have called, and all their worries have been taken care of through the process that we went through. I know Sean Marie said that there's just a couple little things that she needs to change in it too right now, and so we're just going to do a hearing only today. We're not going to vote on it until she can make those couple little changes that she needs to make in it. And so I thought we was going to vote it out today, but I just got a message saying she needed to make a couple of changes.
Did she say it today?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So she needs to make a couple little changes on here. So
okay.
So we're just going to do a hearing only today.
Okay.
I'm
yes,
ready
sir.
to vote on it, but we need to let her have the time to do that. You want to go ahead for your next bill?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And see, next bill will be for, see, where you going then? You need to get your, okay. Rick, yeah, next bill we got House Bill 884.
Yes,
And,
sir. And I'm working off of Lima Charlie, substitute, Lima Charlie 364966.
Okay, well, that ain't the one we got. Hang on a minute.
5186S.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You're exactly right. I'm sorry. I have too many pieces of paper here. So, I do apologize. The last hearing we had about this bill, I think I didn't realize the severity of what we were asking for. I would like a little bit of background. Georgia is the 5th largest military population in America. Georgia military earns $28 billion a year to Georgia. $28 billion. That's larger than the state budget. We get $20 billion from the military, $5 billion from Veterans Affairs, $2.3 billion from military retirement pensions. Georgia is the largest the Department of Defense is the largest single employer in Georgia. That's a fact. 120,000 military service members, 1/3 total jobs, and 1 million Georgians, 10% of the population, are compensated in one way or another by the military. Over 800,000 veterans, and over 103,000 military retirees. I've given you a couple documents, if you don't mind me pointing out. One is a letter from the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense to the Honorable Alan Powell. You have it in front of you. It says, basically, on behalf of military families and Department of Defense, I'm writing to express support for HB 884. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. The third paragraph, it states, the Office of the Secretary of Defense encourages states to engage in immediate actions to fully implement military spouse licensure laws, near-term actions to at least attain a baseline of getting military spouses a license in 30 days based on minimal documentation and long-term solutions for reciprocity through compacts. We're grateful for the tremendous efforts Georgia has historically made. We appreciate the opportunity to support this policy. And he offered, if you want to call him, you may. He gives you his phone number. It's also his email. He also said the legislation is important to the estimated 34% of 25,000 active duty spouses residing in Georgia who need a state-issued license to work. The Georgia, as you know, I was the chairman of military affairs for a while. We have passed 54 bills, laws, in the short time I've been a legislator, helping the military. We were all green on their little green, yellow, red thing. And as you see on that, the document I gave out, we're yellow right now because the Department of Defense has asked us to pass this bill, and we would be in green status. And if you see on the document, from this document right here, the first bullet point is a yellow enhanced military spouse license portability. It says, it asks the states can streamline state licensing processes for relocating military spouses by providing them with a license within 30 days with minimal initial paperwork. 28 states have passed this policy. So what I'm asking for, Chairman, in respect to the committee, is something that 28 states do. And again, we're the 5th largest military population in America, yet 28 states, more than half, all do this, and we do not. So the last bill I asked y'all to look at, we talked about it. We worked with the chairman. I appreciate Chairman Powell and Chairman Ridley, your work with this. We took out a lot of the other requests that the Air Force had about minimal, the lines. That's not what we're doing here. So we took out the request that they not have to have the same similar requirements. So we took out the idea that they didn't have to have the same examinations. So that part is still in the bill. So what this bill, when I bring it to you here today, is the substitute, lines 34 through 38, saying the expedited license by endorsement provided the subsection of the code I do not agree with the 90 days process here. I'd prefer it to be 30 days because that's what the military is asking for. So with respect, I'm hoping that the committee will agree with the Pentagon and give the grace to these military spouses for a 30-day as opposed to 90 days. And I would also like to state, and I don't want to be blustering here, but we have young men and young women on the borders of Ukraine, even as we speak. And if we can do this small thing for a dozen spouses or whatever who are trying to do this to get these the spouse licensures, it's a big win for Georgia, and it's certainly a big win for these spouses. And I'll ask your any questions, sir.
I'm lighting up here. All right, okay, Representative Washburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, presenting the bill, help me understand the difference in the 30 days and the 90 days. I'm a little confused about this. You've got 90 in the bill, but you're...
So I did not write this substitute. Someone wrote it for me. So I've agreed to. There's a bunch more that I was asking for, and I've decided I'm in the spirit of compromise that I was not going to get what I was asking for before. There's an Air Force request for even more. So I've asked in compromise I would give away the other thing, but I really need this 30 days. So someone presented this 90 days. And what I'm asking for, what the military is asking for, what the Secretary of Defense is asking for is 30 days.
Follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
So all these other states are at 30 days?
Yes, sir.
The ones you cite?
28 states.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know where to start. Alabama has excluded healthcare professions. How many of the other 20 states have excluded healthcare professions?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. The 30 days is hard for our healthcare boards because depending on when a board may meet in another state, you're trying to figure out if that candidate has any litigation or any problems, previous problems with the board have been cited. So that would be the reason for greater than 30 days. My father chaired the Veteran Service Board on 4 governors, 50s and 60s and 70s. That's when I used to come down as a kid. So I grew up in a household. Both my parents were veterans of World War II. My mother and father both served in the Navy. I've got a very special place in my heart for veterans. In fact, I don't charge them anything other than what their insurance would pay.
Thank you, sir.
But here comes the but. The but is that our boards exist to help protect the welfare of the patients of Georgia. And this, with professional license, is a little troubling to me. I'll just tell you, I would feel better if we had the professions taken out of this. Senator Lester Jackson was in the Armed Forces and went ahead and took the education, the patient portion that's required in this state. I know what you're trying to do, and I appreciate it.
Again, are you friends?
Go ahead.
We have things called Zoom these days. We have things. We're in a very modern era where we're not talking about a lot of people coming in here and requiring there's a handful a year in each different board that they'd have to deal with. There are ways to get these things done. Again, when these people were sent to the Ukraine, they didn't take 30 days. President Biden ordered them. They're there 2 days later. So why can't we give these military spouses the same grace? And the military has said over and over again that there's 2 things they're concerned about when they're talking about bases and whether or not to move bases, to close bases. Military spouse licensures is number 1. The number 2 thing is education. So this is a big deal to the military. So, I'm just asked. I don't. Having beef about 90 days or 30 days. And I've worked with the Secretary of State for 3 or 4 years trying to get them to do this voluntarily, but they won't do it. And that's why I'm making this request. And
You
this is
talking
not
about
my
the bo-
request. Yes, sir.
You talking about the boards, individual boards?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what you're talking about?
I'm hearing lots of, again, I'm on this thing called the Governor's Defense Commission, and we listen to the base commanders on a quarterly basis talking to us about what's going on, what can we do to help the military. They love the fact that we're doing this bill that Chairman Petrie did about the income tax. That's a great
Right,
thing. They
right.
appreciate all things.
Agree with that.
But I hear over and over and over and over again problems with military spouses within licensures. And so what I'm trying to do is force a hand of these boards to move on these things, because it matters not just to the economic development to Georgia, but it matters to these military spouses.
Well, I just have hesitancy because of the word endorsement. Medical boards, dental boards, they actually have litigation problems now. You'd be surprised how many people are bringing cases against boards for their decisions.
I'm willing to work with you, sir, on language, and also even a temporary would be fine. The military said that they would take a temporary license, but we want. And again, you said why they need 30 days? Well, because I moved I was a military brat. Every 2 years you move, and it takes. So you move into a new place. If it takes half a year or 30 days to get your license, and then you basically work for a year, then for the next half a year you're trying to get transitioned to the next place. So it really matters a lot whether or not you have to wait for that military spouse to work. And you'd say, well, why is the military spouse so important? They're not the ones who are doing the fighting. What happens is let's say the Captain Belton is sent to, is going to be sent to Washington State, and my wife Teresa says, well, I'm a licensed so-and-so, and Washington State doesn't recognize my license. I can't work in Washington State. So I think, honey, I think you should just quit the military and just quit that, so I can stay here in whatever state I live in now and work. And that happens a lot. We lose a lot of good military members because the military spouse can't work in the next state that they're going to. So that's why the military has made such a big effort in this case.
I would feel more comfortable if I knew how many other states excluded health care. That's the thing I'm concerned about. I mean, and I won't, if you're going to do 30 days on this bill, that would force me to vote against you, because 30 days doesn't give a board enough time, because you're depending on another state's board to come back with the answers. And people move from state to state to state. We've got dentists trying to come in the state right now that have been in 4 or 5 states. And some of them do have problems that sort of follow them. So that's the reason I see the need for 90 days. If you want to bifurcate your bill and put 90 days for health care and then 30 days for everything else, if an air conditioning guy really isn't doing a good job and your air goes off, that's one thing. But if your physician really isn't qualified, or your dentist, and they do something, you got to live with the results. That's something else.
That's right.
Okay? Yeah.
Representative Washburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Belton, I appreciate you bringing the bill, and I'm one who always is interested in us forcing quicker action on things rather than slower action, and so I commend you, and certainly we're all or have concern for our military families, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. I am worried about the 30 days, though. That just seems to be very short, and in my world, to tell you the truth, 90 days looks good if we can make them do it in 90 days. So I am concerned about the 30-day thing. I think some of these boards might not meet but quarterly. So I just do have a concern about that, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. Is the 90 days such a problem?
Well, again, I gave you a document from the Pentagon, 2 of them, stating they want 30 days. Now, if 90 days is the best we can do in Georgia, then I'll go with that. But the Pentagon is asking for 30 days.
All right. And as far as the bill is right now, what's your LC number now?
Right now, it's Lima Charlie 3 Golf, 36 51 86 substitute.
Okay. All right, and it's got 90 days on this current bill, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So what's the will of the committee?
Well, Mr. Chairman, do I understand that we could move to do pass it as
Wouldn't-
it's written with 90 days?
Yes, sir, we could.
Mr. Chairman, I move for a do pass recommendation.
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Likewise. Okay. You got your bill.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank y'all for coming for this entertaining day today. Stay tuned this week. We got more coming up. Y'all dismissed.